Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, and in potentially just a couple weeks, President Donald Trump could be announcing his technical re-election bid for the 2024 presidential election. We find out from those close to him and sources on the inside that President Trump is weighing when he should announce his bid. It seems to be almost entirely ensured that he does run for re-election. Donald Trump promised that if he lost to Joe Biden in 2020, he would completely remove himself from American politics. Well, as we have seen over the past year and a half, that simply is not true. President Trump very much wants to run again and has been toying with it at conservative conventions, at political rallies, at fundraisers, and everything that he can, because Donald Trump knows that there's a possibility he might lose the Republican nomination. I'll explain more about that a little bit later on. But President Donald Trump now getting into the actual works of finding out when he should run really shows us that this is not something that is just a publicity stunt. I know there were many people who were expecting that Donald Trump would not actually run for president, that he was doing this for, in some people's words, his own ego, to raise money, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, the steps that he is taking, the fundraising initiatives that he's pushing forward, and this Save America PAC are all early steps that a normal presidential contender would take if they were to run again. And seeing that Donald Trump has done it twice, there's no reason why he wouldn't do it a third time, should the voters allow it. And I think looking at this early timing shows that President Donald Trump has already made a decision. He told Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity, one of the two on Fox News, back half a year ago that he had already made up his mind about whether or not he was running for president. This is a certainty. This is something that likely is going to happen. The question is, does he win the nomination? And honestly speaking, it's possible that he loses it, but right now he absolutely is the favorite, which is why there is some consideration. Now, the advisors for President Trump don't know exactly when he should run for president, when he should announce. Given recent track records of other candidates, he doesn't need to announce till at least a year from now. Even him, he announced, I believe, July of 2015 for the 2016 election. He could truly give it over a year and be right back where he was in 2015. So there's a bit of timing that could go into it that could benefit him. But also, everybody already knows his name. This would just give him more time to fundraise and staff teams and get himself in a favorable position ahead of the midterms. But ultimately, it is his decision. And looking at what we are expecting for the 2024 election, there isn't much data. But the numbers seem to be very good for the former president right now, showing him defeating Joe Biden on the national average. Keep in mind, Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election by a margin of roughly 44,000 votes across three key swing states: Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia. If those three states had gone red, Donald Trump would have been reelected president. 44,000 votes, but Joe Biden won the popular vote by millions of votes, won by 4.5%. 5% if you round up, narrowed down to 44,000 votes across the key important swing states. My point there is that despite Biden's victory of 5 points on the national average, he barely scathed by in this election. And looking at the new polls for 2024, we are looking at numbers that are very bad for the current president and very good for the former president. Because should Joe Biden lose the popular vote, lose the electoral college, that combined would mean Trump would win larger than even his 2016 presidential election victory. So I see where we are right now, that this is probably a good time for President Trump to announce. I know it is a bit unorthodox, but I do think that there is some reasoning behind it because of what his advisors say. Let's talk about a specific quote from someone close to President Trump or a former Trump campaign official, saying that announcing before the midterms allows him to clear the field, shore up the donor base, and take a victory lap after the midterms. The 2022 midterms are practically set in stone. While there are some things that could shake up the outcome of it, realistically speaking, Democrats are not maintaining control of the House and are potentially going to lose control of the U.S. Senate. And Donald Trump is partially to credit. Donald Trump chose the right nominee in the state of North Carolina. He chose the right nominee in the state of Ohio. He has made a lot of good decisions, some bad ones too, that would have been bad for electability, bad for the Republican Party in general, just in terms of candidate quality and things of that nature. But generally speaking, Donald Trump has chosen the winning and right nominees. But of course, everyone can make mistakes. Regardless of that, though, there are just too many races that are contested in the House and in the Senate that would truly put the GOP at an intense disadvantage. No matter what, Republicans will come out ahead by the end of November. There isn't going to be any Democratic gains, at least monumental ones. Even if Democrats were to gain 1 or 2 Senate seats, I would still call 2022 a red wave. Just as 2018 was a blue wave, despite Republicans gaining 2 seats in the U.S. Senate. The Senate isn't always an accurate indicator of what we can call a wave year. But I believe that this advising from this former Trump campaign official is correct. Looking at the 2024 presidential election, there are many Republicans that look like they want to run or will run. This publicly expressed interest column is quite long. You have Chris Christie, Tom Cotton, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Larry Hogan, Asa Hutchinson, Adam Kinzinger, Mike Pence, and of course, the former president. You also have other candidates. You also have other well-known names that have not spoken on the topic, but very well might be running and have spoken to the press about the possibility of running. But many of them have already said that should Donald Trump run in 2024, it will impact their decision. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas said that it won't impact his decision, that he will still remain in the race. But looking at the potential candidates here, for instance, Nikki Haley, former UN ambassador and governor of South Carolina, I would say one of the potential strongest Republican picks. I just don't know if she would get through a primary. I do think that at one point in time, Nikki Haley will become president of the United States should things go her way. But that's also a topic for a whole new video. But looking at the candidate list here, even top tier names are sort of indicating or saying explicitly that they will step back from the race should Donald Trump run for president in 2024. There are many candidates here that I could imagine being very well-known names across the country, but none more well-known than the former president. Which means should Donald Trump announce, these candidates aren't going to think they have any shot at the candidacy. But if they form exploratory bids, in the next coming months, should they form exploratory bids, form political action committees the same way Donald Trump did immediately following his loss of the 2020 election, they could already be raising millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. They could be gearing up for a presidential bid. They could be putting themselves in a powerful position, and while Donald Trump will be in a more powerful position, they might still go for it. The nomination could be easily won and secured should Donald Trump announce today. But of course, there are downsides of that, because the focus on the midterms will evaporate and head towards the 2024 presidential election, because Democrats from the White House have been saying explicitly that Joe Biden will be running for re-election. Donald Trump's campaign pretty much has been saying that he will be running for re-election. It will be a matchup similar to 2020, and the focus will evaporate from the midterms. Fundraising will start to go to President Trump rather than to Republican candidates, so it really is just a guessing game. There also is the risk that Donald Trump runs for president now, decides to do that, holds rallies together with some midterm candidates, and actually boosts turnout for the GOP. But that's also just speculation. There's no guarantee that will actually happen. One person in specific that I talked about briefly when I said I would move on to that topic later was Governor Ron DeSantis, who I believe in a matchup between President Trump might be able to beat him. Now, the numbers don't show that right now. The numbers certainly do not show that Donald Trump is losing to anyone. But if anyone could get there, it would be Governor Ron DeSantis. He is a rising star for the GOP. He might be overhyped. He might fall into irrelevancy 3 years from now. But as it stands, based off the trajectory that he's going, based off of his approval rating in a very hotly contested swing state, based off of his expected chance at victory this November in a state that hasn't reelected a governor by more than 2 points in quite some time now, or elected a Republican by more than 2 points in over a decade, you could be looking at Governor Ron DeSantis winning in Florida by 9 to 12 points, and then heading into 2024 with this mandate, I won in a swing state that Democrats and Republicans fight over time and time again, and I made it solid red, practically speaking. He can do that on the presidential level, and he offers, I would say, quite more electability and speaking skills than President Trump because he knows how to keep his composure. He's just as right-wing, potentially more than President Trump, yet he comes across as more moderate to some. I will say Ron DeSantis has certainly taken some stances that I think will hurt him on the national level. I think there are some scandals that could arise. For instance, when Governor Ron DeSantis and his office withheld funding from the Special Olympics out of retaliation for mask mandates and a vaccine mandate. Things of that nature aren't exactly going to fly well on the national average, which might be fine in the state of Florida, or aren't as propped up by the mainstream media, because guess what? Ron DeSantis isn't the Republican nominee for president. But I think should Ron DeSantis run against Donald Trump in a standard timeline, meaning Trump announces in a year from now, Ron DeSantis announces in a year from now, it could become competitive. The only plus side I would say that Donald Trump gets from announcing later down the line is that he lets the midterms play out. He doesn't take the attention away from them because ultimately speaking, I do think Donald Trump announcing his bid for president will end up hindering the midterms because, again, the focus will shift on that and rather than on some of these key important races. There could be plenty of donors who are willing to already shoot their money to Donald Trump, but are waiting for him to officially announce because they don't want to waste their money. But they're focusing their money and their efforts right now on individual candidates and statewide Republican candidates, and that's where a lot of the money and resources are going. I can guarantee you would see a reallocation of that should he announce his bid now. Looking at the 2020 Democratic primary, the earliest contender was July 28th, 2017, and that was Representative John Delaney. He was the first one to announce, the first technical major candidate, announcing that he was running for president of the United States against Donald Trump. Then announcements came in 2018 and then early 2019. Early 2019 means that in this timeline, we're talking early 2023, not mid 2022. I will say that though there have been people who have announced earlier than potentially July 4th, 2022, as this Business Insider article seems to suggest, but John Delaney actually set the record for the earliest time to announce a bid for president and was running and then ultimately ended up getting about 19,000 votes and withdrew before the primaries even occurred. So even with years to his candidacy, still couldn't build up momentum. Now, that won't be the case for President Trump, but it is something to say that earlier bids aren't always, working, but they have also happened, but not necessarily super successfully. Joe Biden announced his bid for President of the United States in April 2019. So spring of 2023 for Donald Trump would be around a similar time frame. Now, in Donald Trump's first election in 2016, he ran, not July, I said July maybe, a while back, but June 2015 was when Donald Trump announced. So it looks like maybe if we were to jump a year ahead, that's exactly where he would be. But looking at the others who announced their candidacies, Ted Cruz announced March 23. Mark Everson announced March 5th. And these were the earliest Republican announcements for President of the United States, the earliest, truly speaking. And of course, there were always speculations and exploratory committees formed and fundraising efforts and political action committees made. But looking at the numbers, looking at the difference between the candidates, you will find that, realistically speaking, Donald Trump is going to be way far off from any Republican from 2016, way far off from most Democrats from 2020, and just in a completely unorthodox situation. But I can't say that that is going to hinder him because he already has name recognition. I will also say potentially, and I just thought of this actually, there is one potential drawback that he announces this early on, that it gets rid of the shock factor and gets rid of the energy and enthusiasm. Running your primary campaign and general election campaign for 2.5 years is going to prove to be trying. It's going to be a difficult effort because you are going to need people who are willing to give up everything today and jump on this campaign. But many of them are still on midterm campaigns, or many of them are still a part of important races for the 2022 elections. There are going to be people out there that want senior positions in the Trump campaign, and should he announce them, he's going to need those positions yesterday, right? So looking at that possibility, the Republican Party will obviously get them. Donald Trump will obviously get those staffers and workers. But then again, people also like a break between campaigns. The staffing problem is going to be an issue right now because everyone is focused on the midterms, and some top advisors and top campaigners and managers are going to drop from campaigns to jump on the Trump train because they might believe in it. They might say, I want Donald Trump to be reelected, so I'm willing to give up Dr. Ozz's Senate race, or I'm willing to give up Ted Budd's Senate race, or I'm willing to give up, one random House race in a competitive California district or New York district or something of that caliber. And you will start to see people drop like flies from major campaigns in the midterms and, again, focus on the presidential election. So it gets tricky because he might not find enough people in the short term. Obviously, he will get them closer to the election, as every presidential contender does. But I will say that looking at the 2024 bid now, there's always that downside. So it seems to be very clear that President Trump knows he's running for president, that we should recognize and understand and know that Donald Trump is running for president. The question is, when does he announce? The only thing that might push him away and deter him from running is if the 2022 midterms are a bust. And that is probably about a 5% chance of happening. 95%, I think the Republican Party is going to pick up seats, retain control of the House, and potentially regain control of the House and potentially regain control of the U.S. Senate. We'll see what happens. We'll take a closer look. We'll see if Trump announces on the 4th of July. I don't think he will, but if he does, that will be a very big shock to many, but also not so much. So we'll see. Let's keep a close eye on President Trump and what his allies and adversaries are saying, because it will be important for the 2024 presidential election. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2024 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.